Will Caiger from Love to Ride is our guru of all things Love to Ride. And I've been working with Will for, geez, it must be about 4 or 5 years
4 years,
now.
yeah.
Um, and one of the reasons that I really like Love to Ride is that it encourages more people to cycle rather than just people to cycle more, as is the case with some other cycling platforms with a lot of orange branding on them. And so it's deliberately aimed at being inclusive, and I appreciate that there are two white fellas staring at the screen at you right now, but to really diversify that image of what people riding bikes is like. So I'm always really excited to hear what Love to Ride are doing in terms of broadening the appeal of using a bicycle for transport, for leisure, and even for sport, for people who enjoy that kind of thing. So Will's going to talk to us about how Love to Ride will help you to encourage more of your staff, maybe visitors, patients, customers, students, to cycle more and more of them to cycle. And my understanding is he's going to talk to you also about some of the shiny data that you can get out at the back end of this for things like carbon reporting and all of those things that encourage senior management to support your work. So, Will, the floor is yours. I'm going to let you share your screen just now, and I will turn my camera off and mute myself.
Yeah, like Andy said, I won't go into too much about what Love to Ride is, but going into, I think a good place to start is always to show what we did last year. I think it's really important. 2023 was a really successful year. Some interesting areas of growth as well, and I'll go into that in a bit more detail, but the area growing, last year, we were just Southampton. This last year going, we were Solent. So I'll talk a bit more about that and kind of the goals for this year. What our plans are for this year, and that's slightly changed with our campaigns and challenges we run throughout the year. Some of the new things we're doing, and then some of the goals kind of I've got set for this year, being more specific as well, and how we can support the area in a bit more of a different way as well. So to start with, I thought it'd be nice to show we had another prize winner in Solent, and I don't know how you guys win so often. You'd think I'd be scamming this myself at this stage. We had a decathlon winner of the bike pre-registration in Solent, and Decathlon were brilliant with us on it. They also gave him a custom bike fitting. He also didn't like the bike we gave as a prize, and weirdly picked a cheaper one. But went down, got his fitting. I think some might pop down as well, which was great. But it's great to have Decathlon on board and supporting us in the area as well. So it's good to have another winner down Solent. What I wanted to start with, and hopefully this works. How about this? So the reason I'm putting it into this format is just to show you guys, this is the data for Solent for last year, but also every single workplace has this at their fingertips. So on your workplace profile, any champ can get this data specifically for their workplace. It's all free, and obviously supports either your sustainability goals or increase of cycling, especially this year with Scope 3 emissions being such a big talking point. And so I'm doing it from a Solent-wide, but we can obviously show you guys how to do this as well from an individual workplace perspective. But it just puts into context, you know, we do focus a lot on the riders specifically, and seeing how much impact we've had in the area and the years we've worked here is pretty incredible. So to start with, last year, 123,000 trips logged by your riders, which is 1.5 million miles. So an amazing year, and it's been growing every year. You can kind of see from the map that Cycle September is still our peak. And obviously my goal is obviously to get the other times of the year to peak as much as our major challenges do. But also what's incredible out of that is the highest percentage you guys have had this year was your transport trips. So 55,000 transport trips, 258,000 miles logged for transport trips, which is incredible. Again, our workplace challenges do mean we get a big boom around that. And you can see the breakdown here that transport being 45% of your total trips is amazing. And, you know, we will try anything to get people on their bike, and inevitably that starts with a cycle for fun and fitness, or literally just around a car park for a new rider to get them enjoying a bike again. But to see that shift over to actual transport trips is amazing. If we go into kind of more about the riders, hopefully it won't take too long to load. So last year we had over 1,800 people take part who log trips in the region. And then we have a breakdown of the active and registered. So if you look at the active data, and this is surprising data, very different to the rest of the country, which is an interesting one to look at. So this is people who actually logged trips on the platform in the last year, and so it's broken up by new, occasional, and regular riders. Our new rider count is still really good at 40% female. Like, we're making a big shift there. But what's amazing, and if you guys know about the national averages of cycling, it's about 75% in regular riders is male, maybe even higher than that in some areas. And for you guys, we're at kind of 47% in our regular riders being female. So way above national average, and really surprising. This is almost kind of backwards to what we'd see. But what was great last year is, we had 600 new people sign up to the platform. And when you look at the registrants from last year, we've had a nearly a 50-50 split. In new rider count, 70% were female signing up, 53% in the occasional, and 37% in the regular. So what we're seeing is, obviously, the more we can kind of bring on the female riders into the new and occasional categories, it shifts the needle in the regular once the kind of behavior change kicks in and they become more confident on a bike. So to see that change has been amazing in the last year. 218 workplaces, which is brilliant, and 44 created last year. So the workplace challenges have had a huge impact. We are sticking with that, and I'll kind of go into it in more detail this year of kind of the plan. But obviously, we want to keep this number growing. It's kind of been our big key initiative over the last few years of how we get people engaged. If we look at kind of some of the newer data, this is kind of the new dashboards, which is trying to support the workplaces, especially on scope 3 emissions and what we can do on that kind of front from transport trips. So last year, 75,000 kilos of CO2 saved, and we kind of, probably similar to how Ray did it earlier, we have all the maths on the side, and the calculations are broken down from the transport trips to work, trips to taking your kids to school, and inevitably what were car trips prior. And then another way of looking at it, because obviously this means minimal to a lot of people, it's the equivalent of planting 3,000 trees. And so we try to make it simpler, especially for terms of like marketing and that kind of stuff, is a good way of putting it. But if you look at the data as well, it's interesting when you look at kind of the survey data, and we've tried to give that at an easier at your fingertips. So 35% stated living sustainability as their main motivating factor for riding. And obviously we know this everywhere, and you'll see in our marketing as well, we talk about health and fitness a lot, because 90% it was improving health and fitness. So whether your goals are sustainability, the goal is, from your end, from a marketing perspective, is always to push on the health and fitness factor. It's the main reasons why people want to get on a bike. And then from an NHS perspective, and this is really important from the health side, is they deem 150 minutes of high increased heart rate a week is kind of the healthy standard. And 50% of our riders are hitting that just from cycling a week. So it's pretty incredible. We obviously want to always increase that, but it's nice to be able to see that as a breakdown. And one of the big goals for this year for us, and I've been talking about it for years, so thank God it's finally here, is the app data. Now, we will start promoting this in a major way for Bike Month. So our campaign in May is going to be predominantly about promoting it, and we're going to have a tagline about making your rides count and supporting your infrastructure in your area. And what you can kind of see here is people who were on our platform prior, using Strava or manually logging, who've shifted over to our app, which, if you don't know or haven't used it yet, automatically logs your ride. So as long as you have your phone on you, it will know you're on a bike. We've seen nearly an 8 times increase in the trips they've logged, because it's all those tiny trips which are missing. So currently we don't have too many users on the app, but obviously we haven't been promoting it or pushing it. So 120 active users currently. But if I scroll down, and obviously we have data on who, so Carnival are doing the best currently and getting them on, is if we look down here at the trips being logged. So the orange graph here is Strava, and the blue graph here is Love to Ride. Is although we have a tiny amount of our total users on the app, so down here we can see we've probably got 10% of people are probably using the app, maybe less than that, 7% of all our trips being logged are on ours. We have 93% of trips under a mile being logged on our app. So those journeys where people were cycling to the shop or taking their kids to school, which might be down the road, and getting on a bike, people were never logging them on Strava because it feels a lot of effort. And so to see that 93% of those trips, so basically all of the trips where people weren't logging, are now being recorded, is great to see. And obviously the trips which matter less to transport and infrastructure are the 50 plus miles, the the weekend riders, and Strava still dominate that. And we don't want to take that away, right? They're two very different products. Our product's there to support infrastructure and support that kind of understanding where people are cycling and the dangers. Whereas the 15 plus miles is the wrong data to support that kind of stuff. So it's great to see that it's already working with not that many people on the app. And I was testing it this morning. I don't have it on the presentation right now because it's literally kind of still in testing phase right now. The comfort rating is coming along really well, where on your journey you can use your finger on your phone and color the map red, orange, or green to say if it was safe or unsafe or uncomfortable to ride, and we can collect that data for everyone to understand the areas of real challenge. So it's coming along, which is great. And so Bike Month will be our big push, where we're going to try promote everyone to turn on the app for the month and see if we can collect as much data as possible, the citizen science piece around that. And if I go back to this is what it all kind of links into. So our program each year we call Ride 365, and we run 4 campaigns throughout the year. And we took a lot of feedback from last year. We've predominantly run challenges, as some of you all know from the past, and we're trying to get away from that with 2 of our campaigns. So the spring campaign is already launched, and essentially it's all about getting yourself ready to ride in spring. So as you know, right now the weather is not great. This launched on the 1st of Feb, and runs for 2 months. And every week for those 2 months, we're giving away £150 prizes for logging a trip and logging a trip for transport. So you've got different chances of winning, and it's really simple, individual kind of goal setting objectives. That's what all our emails are about, to get people just back on their bike after, the crappiest time of the year for weather. No challenge in that involved. It's all about yourself and taking away that competitive element. And that's the feedback we got from our riders, is that they don't always want to take part in challenges, and they don't always want it to be competitive. So spring campaign and winter wheelers are going to be individual, less challenge focused, more about supporting yourself getting back on your bike. And both of those 2 will be 2-month campaigns. So winter wheelers will be December and January next year. And then the classic kind of predominant focus of what we've done and done so well over the last few years is Bike Month and Cycle September. So this year they'll be the same kind of months. So it'll be May and September. Both workplace challenges, but they're both going to be the same as Cycle September was last year. So points-based challenges. And what we're hoping to see is, can we get people engaged in Bike Month? And then by the end of the summer in Cycle September is see how much improvements we can get in those workplaces or in the area, and really have a direct comparison between the 2, and see if behavior change works. And if we can kind of promote people to improve and enjoy cycling throughout the summer, and then take part in another challenge towards the end of the summer. So that's the goal for the year. We're also going to be giving away, monthly app prizes. And that's solely for logging trips on the app. So the goal to us getting the best data has got to be our app. And that means that we can understand where people are riding, the comfort where people are riding, and support you guys better with that data. So it's a big focus for us. We've got to get people shifting over. It's still actually quite heavy data already with 120 riders, but imagine if we had that with 1,000 people riding across the area. So it's always going to be a challenge to get the Strava users away and understanding for them that they are completely different apps. And that's got to be a huge focus for us. We still want you to use your Strava on the weekends and for your sporting rides. But if we can get your transport rides, it's going to make a huge difference to that kind of depth of data. So what's new? One of the big things we're going to try to do this year is focus on specific workplaces. Sometimes I think some of our feedback is that, the promo packs can be generic, which is understandable. There's a lot of different workplaces out there. And we're trialing a few things this year, predominantly with universities and NHS. But we've created already the new NHS support package. And during that, and I'll go into a bit more detail, we're going to run webinars throughout the year for funded and unfunded NHS users, supporting them with their kind of scope 3 and active travel kind of goals. And any questions they have, we'll run these webinars where they can come along, ask any questions, how we can help them promote their staff, what data we can support them with. Obviously then revamped Insights dashboard. So we've now got that app data and sustainability and health data. And that again is for all the workplaces as well. The Android app is here, still having a few tweaks and issues, which we fully expected, but will be fully live for Bike Month. But it is live now. You can get on it now. We're just telling users that there might be a few updates, and we're kind of updating the app every week because we were never going to know the issues until it was live. And the big one, which is the comfort rating. So the new tools for planners, they're going to be ready for bike bumps. So from that infrastructure side, to be able to see the comfort rating of these riders will be a huge shift, and can back the evidence of what we've collected over the year from all the surveying data. So the NHS support package, this is kind of a new field for us of seeing how we can engage a sector better and how we can support them. So we've created a whole promo pack specifically for them for the year and how we can support them and their kind of goals and needs. And like I said, the first webinar is on the 5th of March. So if anyone's keen to come along, we can send you the invite. We've sent it to hopefully a few people across the area, and hopefully they can send it on to other people who are interested or focus on the Scope 3 emission stuff or the active travel side in their workplace. The more, the merrier. It's key for us to kind of hear the feedback that you guys need and see if we can promote you more, because obviously they are always going to be one of the major employers in an area. They're always going to have parking issues, and it's how we can support them better. And we're hoping then to set this live for universities across the country who have always been a big kind of advocate of Love to Ride for us. And then we'll be doing this with different sectors to see if we can support them in similar needs that they need. And having these promo packs specific to their goals will obviously make a big difference. So the kind of goals for this year are slightly different for us. One of the things we've definitely noticed over the years, and you know, this is, I guess, one of the challenges of behavior change company is the retention of riders. What we find is we gain lots of new riders and occasional riders, and we get them feeling confident on their bike and taking part. And then what happens inevitably is when people become regular riders, they think they're done. You know, they finish with Love to Ride, and they might be using Strava for their, you know, competitive rides on a weekend and that kind of side. But actually that's still super important for us, seeing how people develop, and that data becomes richer because they're inevitably as a regular rider doing trips for transport. So we're going to do a big focus on keeping riders once they become that regular side, that we're still important to them and part of them, and hopefully the app will support that side. Obviously we started last year in Portsmouth and Winchester, and we want to grow that more. The bigger the kind of data source, and they're obviously almost a quick win. Southampton, we are large in already, which is great. But growing the whole region will be really important. Active champs, I'm really keen to get the right people in the right workplaces, championing us and using the promo packs in the right way and asking us for support. If we can get you guys using our stuff in the right way and supporting us, then obviously the data we can give you is so much better. So really keen on getting kind of the active champs and supporting you guys however you need, and having separate calls on that kind of stuff as well. And obviously the big one for us is getting people on the Love to Ride app. It is free to download. You know, there's no cost to anyone for this, but that increase in data will help everyone. And if we can achieve that in, you know, a couple of months' time, and I can bring up on the presentation the most comfortable routes people are cycling and the least comfortable routes, it'll obviously show a huge factor in kind of workplaces who are struggling with getting people on their bikes. That evidence piece is going to be massive. So nice and quick presentation today. Those are the kind of goals, but I'm happy to answer any questions. Should be it.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. I will turn my camera back on. So straight off the bat, we've had some chat with Sam about. There's more questions. Firstly, where do we find the app? Am I right in thinking it's both Android and iOS now? How do we distinguish the new app from the old one when we're on the App Store or Play Store?
The old one should be gone. Should be gone. I'm praying it's gone. Yep. The only difference is the iOS one is the iOS one. It's live. Yep. It's fully active. Is about to get a very big update. So it hasn't been updated in about 3 months because we want it to be parallel with Android. Android is still what they've called beta testing phase. So it's live on the Play Store, but it'll pop up saying this is still a testing app, because we're keen to hear feedback. If it crashes or you have any issues with it logging your trips, as soon as you send that off to tech, it'll come up with a button saying any problem, send it over. That data is really important for us because we want it to be 100% on collecting all your rides. It is ready. It's just we are desperate to understand if there are issues in certain parts of the country or certain Android phones, and so it's going to be ready completely live in the next 4 or 5 days. But when people report those issues are really important. And obviously the goal for us is that someone doesn't get pissed off with those issues and then deletes the app, is understanding that we are desperately trying to get this right. And those reporting the issues really does make a difference. There is a question there.
There was a
Are there
question about
security issues?
security, because obviously there's a whole bunch of location data being shared on this. What are you doing to keep people safe whilst they're using the app, and to help people know that their data is safe?
Yeah, so a few different points on this. We're
Yes.
spending a lot of time on this part. No client has access to any of this data at current stage. The GDPR side is incredibly detailed, and so there's two parts. So from a personal perspective, you get your own personal heat map. It's completely accurate to where you've been riding, and that's only visible to you. In terms of aggregated data, we're still working on making it completely feasible that no one can tell wherever you live, GDPR reasons. Essentially, it'll be kind of PDF style documents, which no one can track where people are. And we're going to correlate and aggregate trips together. So if people live in certain areas, that'll be bulked together and you'll be able to see it as one whole thing rather than individual. So no client of ours will be able to specifically pick out Jim Smith from Carnival and his exact trips, or especially, we have these questions all the time from the MOD and the military and the police. And we're very conscious of that. So there are no security issues, and we are working on that, like, to get absolutely right for once that data is ready for clients, kind of May, June time.
So there's no risk of, and I hesitate to call it this, the Strava stalking phenomenon, where people can see where other users have been.
Well, the first starting point is we can't personally see your individual heat map. So the starting point was, how do we make this as safe and secure for a person as possible? Even Love to Ride can't see your individual heat map. We get it all aggregated through our system. And so it means that no one will ever see your heat map. So that'll only be on your phone. I don't know where is the app. So what it looks like to yourself is that.
Yep.
So that's my cycling over the last month in Bristol. And that is my aggregated heat map. But Bristol data is then sent into our data system as a whole. So it's not like any of our team can even see your own personal riding data.
Super. Alongside your push on the NHS, I understand that there are some changes afoot over university and higher education and education pages that I'm quite excited about, in terms of amalgamating pages for staff and students.
Yeah, let me see.
I'm aware that wasn't a question and more of a statement. I'm sorry.
That's fine. Give me 30 seconds. Let me see if I can. I'll get up a university page. And this is for all education as well, FY. So at the moment, it's still called Solent University Staff. This is currently with our tech team, and they are merging and this is the same for Southampton University as well. We've got staff student pages, and in the past, we couldn't tell the difference, and that's obviously not good for a workplace challenge. Also, when students left the university, it skewed the data because we weren't sure that they left. So now, as soon as you join a university profile, you'll get a pop-up which says, are you staff or student? And then every year that will pop up if you're a student saying, are you still a student? So we can get them to move on and so they don't stay in the wrong workplace. But essentially, we've now got tabs here. So within this, then you can have the breakdown. So you'll have the students, which are not in the staff one right now, and this is being merged over in the next week, and then all your staff. And so we have a breakdown of the two, and obviously the data then will show that. And then obviously what I was kind of showing you earlier is for every workplace, you now have the reporting on the back end. And so for these kind of things, if you're looking at your CO2 saved or your active travel data, you'll be able to collect that yourself and hopefully have it all at your fingertips for the last year. And you can break that down by any kind of periods you want to see how you kind of have been growing and the trips over time. And obviously they did quite well in Cycle September and in Bike Month they took part. But it gives you a nice breakdown of what you've been doing throughout the year.
Brilliant. Back at the beginning, you talked about new, regular, and occasional users. Is that self-defined, or is there some kind of back-end thing that moves people between those categories?
So when they join the platform, it's self-defined. So we ask them how many trips, how often do you get on your bike? And through that data, we'll then define if they're a new, occasional, regular rider. We then do two forms to move this forward. So we normally track them. So we do a post-campaign survey, and then we'll do a 3-month survey post that, and then a 6-month survey. And what we try to track is one, what they deem themselves. So, you'll find if we just did it on the trips logged, a regular rider in December, you could deem as a new rider by the trips logs because it's Christmas, they're not cycling to work, it's crap weather. So they could shift category if we just do it on tracked rides. So it's on both. So we track to make sure that they are regular, occasional, or new by their survey data, and then also track their data. Because what you'll find is if you were a new rider and you cycle once a week, you might then deem yourself as a regular rider. You're probably an occasional rider, but you feel like you've made a huge step forward. So we have to kind of take in both to make sure that what people say and what people do are kind of linked up.
Yeah, brilliant. You talked earlier on about how the gender split in Solent is different from the picture across the rest of the country. Are there any other areas in which this area is unusual?
No, it's normally really consistent. You know, because we do a very large push, and especially in the new and occasional riders on female ridership, it's the area which needs the biggest shift in cycling. Again, it's two white men chatting on this call. It's quite a common thing in cycling. The regular rider data is so consistent with what you see in any sort of cycling data. It's 75 to 80% male in the regular rider. So to have that so high in female in the regular, and still very good in new and occasional, but it's kind of backwards. So, we've worked with you guys for a long time, which I do think makes a difference. Is you get that behavior change shift, and obviously we've got a lot of female riders in there over the years, which is brilliant. But it's a real crossover. And so I guess the areas I'd need to check are the longer standing clients of reasonable size would be like a Lancashire, probably might have some of that. But not to that extreme. Like it's quite a big shift. And it's a really amazing thing to see. It's just, it does skew from the standard normal data you'd look at. So it's a positive, but it's definitely an anomaly.
Veering wildly, obviously you're keen for people to promote Love to Ride. Where do people go looking for promotional assets and those kinds of things?
All on the site. It gets updated for every challenge. So if I am on the Solent page, within the info, you have the promo pack. So this is the promo pack currently. This is the one for the spring campaign. And I'm pretty sure Ray had it on the...
I may have downloaded some of those assets for our slides.
Okay, there we are. So here are some of the assets. We try to make it as open, and we speak to Workplace all the time about what they need. So we have the short messages and emails already written for you guys, posters, flyers, email signatures. So it's all there. And then obviously when we get to Bike Month, Cycle September, these become specific to those challenges. And obviously this is more of like a generic Ride365 one you can use all year round. And what we'll do is we'll adjust and update the colors depending on the season. So it kind of fits into what you're trying to do. But it's always on. In here, we'll have a resources page always. So as soon as you go to info, all your resources are there. And obviously then there's local information about Solent.
Brilliant. Thank you. Really nerdy question, because I know that some people who are working in local authorities struggle to access Google Drive. Is the stuff all hosted on Google Drive, or are there alternate ways of getting hold of it?
Yeah, email me.
Okay.
We've gone around in circles in this one, and every council seems to be different. So we used to email it, but it used to come up as spam. Google Drive seemed to work the best. It's a tricky one. And we tried Dropbox. That also got blocked by about 50% of councils. I will never understand council systems. We're trying to make it as open as possible to everyone. It's difficult.
Super. And this one came from Trevor, so I may be answering his question that his hand's up in the air for. Those insights that you talked about, they are for champions only. Is that correct?
Correct. It's we don't want everyone to just have that data. And the problem is the more people you give access, the more they can play with their workplace as well and adjust things. And we are changing that though this year. So we're going to have a champion, and then we're looking at having promoters. So you'll have, in a 2,000 person workplace, you need more than one champ. And so essentially you'll have up to 10 people who could be deemed as promoters, who'll get those emails about the promotional material, but also be able to see that data. It's just making sure also we get that security right as well. You don't want anyone just being able to click on it. And so I think we'll probably give the power to the champ. But obviously, when I was talking about active champs, the challenge we always have is people leave workplaces, and then we get stuck with a dud email address who's been getting the promotional materials for 2 years, and no one knew that they could be the champ. So this is what we're trying to get around, is how we make sure that we've got active champions in areas who can kind of bring on the right promoters.
Cool. And for people on the call today who would like to be able to monitor that for their workplace, but not necessarily be the champion, then they can be the supporter and get access to all of that detail.
Correct.
But hand on the kind of promotional and
To someone else.
Kind of, yeah, perfect. And finally, comfort zones. That sounded fascinating. That's the thing that I thought we should have for ages. That's on the app, is it now?
Yeah. So essentially, it's not on the app. It's on. I was trialing it yesterday with one of our tech team. It's essentially you'll be able to draw in a 10-meter space, green, orange, red, and select. So basically, what we should have is aggregated data of hopefully lots of red in certain spots, and then we really understand. The challenge with it, and the reason it's not live yet, is if you have, let's say, someone like you, Andy, who does a lot of trips, is heat mapping all his different journeys, it's a lot of data. And what happens is when someone does, 2 trips a day and is comfort rating irregularly, is it just makes the phone incredibly slow. So what they're trying to work out at the moment is every 24 hours, that data gets saved and then it's almost refreshed. So it's always quick.
Cool.
It's coming. It's coming, and,
cool.
and it looks amazing, and should give us just a massive amount of evidence of real sticking points, which we all probably know or guess at, but very struggle to kind of evidence that.
Brilliant. Trevor, have I answered your question, or is there something else you'd like to ask?
The answer is both.
Yes.
Brilliant.
So yes, thank you for clarifying about the insights, because I think I'm in that position, aren't I, where I'm nosy bugger and I want to know what's going on and how it's working, but I don't want to take responsibility for it. I want to encourage others to step up to the plate. So that sounds like a really good innovation or improvement in that. So that'd be helpful. My other question there was just about the reliability of the app and its kind of feedback, Will, and I'll now you've said it that way, I'll send you a couple of examples. But I was very loyal. I downloaded the app very early on and was trying it, and it just didn't capture what in my mind were the right rides. So I've got all sorts of things, it used to capture rides for when I was walking around my flat, or it would log when I drove to work up the M275, all those kind of things. It's like, well, clearly something's not quite right, and I don't know how it works. Other
Nor do
than
I.
magic. Is it speed related? Is it? I don't know. So there's some voodoo in there that wasn't working for me. So I kind of basically turned it off and then started doing it manually, and then I got tired and then I stopped doing it. So
for sure,
and not quite right yet, but
yeah, there's a few things on this, right? It's automatic logging is always going to be really, really difficult. We understand that, and people whinging moaning about the app and sending it in is key, is like absolutely crucial, because if we know a journey was wrong, they can kind of adjust things, and it should be a lot better now. Essentially, the ones we're struggling with, so cars and walking should be fine, is e-scooters, because the similar speed, similar bumpiness. What we're trying to work out is, can we, because they have e-scooter parking spaces in town, if journeys are from a to and from spot regularly, we'll understand that's an e-scooter journey, not a bike journey, because of the consistency of the same journey. So that we're working on. Weirdly, snowboarding. We've had a couple of people who've gone on holiday snowboarding and thinking they're cycling down a hill, and golf buggies, similar speed and bumpiness. So those are the areas we're not quite sure how to crack, but everything else should and will be getting better. So making sure you're updating the app. There will be a big announcement in the next couple of weeks of when the latest updates here, which is a lot smoother. But we understand this, right? And it's always a challenge, and with a millionth of the time smaller than Strava. So our tech team are a team of 6 working on this, and some very smart people. So it's it's a challenge, and genuinely, the more data, the more people who tell us their problem is important, because they can look at that exact trip and then work out what's the right or wrong problem.
Yeah, And for reference, because I have the app in front of me, the way you do that, am I right in thinking, is there's a hamburger menu in the bottom corner, and you either click not in a vehicle or something else went wrong, and that will send it through to the tech team, who will pick up the issues with it from there.
Yeah.
Cool. Fab. They're on, as far as I can tell, no further questions. If anyone does think of questions after this, please do stick them in the chat, and I can always pick them up with Will afterwards, and we can forward them on to you. Thank you very much for coming along today. We do appreciate your time. There are some very exciting developments in the pipeline, particularly around that data collection and that leveraging the data for workplaces, but also for local authorities is. And I know there are a number of people on this call whose eyes will be lighting up at the thought of having access to that data. So you've made a number of people very happy today, including me. We will let you go. Thank you so much for coming along.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.